So student groups are upset over planned budget cuts in the tertiary sector. It's after Treasury indicated a few days ago already that funding would be cut by nearly 14 billion rand. Government is at the moment trying to curtail rising debt. South Africa's union or South African Union of Students spokesperson Asive Dlanjwa with us tonight to talk more about the story. Asive, as I was saying, it's been a few days now since this news got out. How do you see it affecting the tertiary education sector as soon as the new year and perhaps in the longer term?
Good evening, Butemeli, to you, your viewers and your listeners. I probably should start by saying we absolutely condemn this move by Treasury and generally the government. It will have a devastating impact, and unfortunately it will have a devastating impact on the poor and the working class, because this budget is not just cut out from anywhere, it is cut out from the poor. This is 13 billion rand that was meant to service the poor, not for their entertainment, but to ensure that they are given the best opportunity to pull themselves out of the clutches of poverty, as we have seen many. In fact, numbers tell us that it is less than 15% of graduates that are unemployed, as opposed to the over 60% unemployment rate amongst non-graduates. So really, this is obviously in the short term, it means that we are likely to have thousands of students that either will lose their funding through systematic measures like them not being reinstated after their funding would have fallen for whatever reason, number one. Number two, we will obviously see far less students that will be accepted next year, that will be having spaces in institutions of higher learning. That would be in the short term. And in the long term, as I have already said, we are going to sit with a potential hundreds and thousands of families that would have otherwise had an opportunity to acquire education will not be, and which means obviously they will remain languishing in poverty.
And this was in an appearance before Parliament, in fact, said this recently. I want to quote it for viewers who may not have been able to keep up with that briefing, that basically, based on the calculation of this 10% reduction in university funding from National Treasury's medium-term budget policy statement, some 87,712 students, they say, would be left unfunded in the 2024 academic period. This then would increase to 120,976 students in 2024-2025's academic period. And those numbers, while they're staggering, are made more alarming, are they not, Asive, by the fact that many people in this country who drop out because they don't have money are, in fact, seldom able to make it back into tertiary education, which has lifelong implications, possibly.
It really does not make sense. There's no way to understand this. You are correct. I mean, over 100,000. In fact, by our own estimations, we think it will be much more than that 120,000 students, and not even only in 2025, but just in 2024 alone, it will be more than that. It is absolutely ludicrous, honestly, when you think about it, because we have been bemoaning the fact that we've got about a 20% a student cohort that is unfunded, which we call the missing middle. The government agreed with us, and we sought and worked for the last 3 years to come up with initiatives and solutions and interventions to assist that 20%. So when we are trying to bolster the current student funding model, you then break from that which already exists, because you must understand, it is not only potential students that will not be funded. Even current funded students are going to be affected by this budget cuts. So it really does not make sense. And it is a pity, because it is probably one of the few things that work and that shows that the government is at the very least interested in the interest of the poor and the working class. So really, there's no way of justifying these budget cuts. We had said, for instance, you've got vice chancellors that are getting paid 6 million rands per annum across institutions. Some of them are getting paid almost twice what the president is getting paid. So we have said that the government must cut from those places. You've got a bloated executive structures in institutions of higher learning. You will have a rectorate of 8 people, and the least earning will be earning 3 million rand. So we have said we can cut from there. We have said that the rich must be taxed. We have said that we must impose a tax even on companies, because the greatest beneficiaries in any case of this investment in higher education is the private sector. And government is not doing that. The only thing that government is doing is cutting education, where in fact, if you remember, when they increased the VAT from 14 to 15, it was said that it was going to fund this very higher education. And that is not what it is doing, except the burden that is being placed on the poor through the pay-as-you-earn and the VAT keeps on increasing, while elevating pressure from the ruling class at the expense of the poor and the working class. So really,
could we see then, could we see as
if a government that is not interested in the poor?
Could we see something similar to what happened with Fees Must Fall as a result of these cuts? Because if they're going to affect tens of thousands of people, I don't imagine they're going to wash down well on campuses across the country.
We are hoping so. That students across, as we will also galvanize them, that they will take to the streets and they will make their presence felt, because if we don't, us who are registered, those that also are supposed to be registered that are outside the system will not come in. We are hoping that that support will be galvanized and will be able to put pressure on the government and not to negate its responsibility towards the poor and the working class. But the extent to which it might be or might not be, like Fees Must Fall, I mean, it stands to be seen.
Asive Dlanjwa, good to speak to you from the SA Union of Students. Thank you for your time.